Satan is an adversary or an accuser. In this case, Peter is the Satan. He is the adversary. Because he does not have the mind of things of God, but things of men. He does not want his king to be killed. He cannot, and they will not understand this. This is something that they are not going to get. They are not going to get this up until it happens. Yeah, actually, not even until then. They're not going to get this until they see Jesus again, and even then, they're going to be confused and amazed more than anything. They're not really going to get it until the day of Pentecost, when it finally all clicks. Then he called the crowd to him, along with his disciples, and said, "If anyone would come after me," be a follower, in other words, "he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." So that's his first reference, the type of execution he's going to suffer. He's already mentioned being killed. Now he's giving an allusion to the kind of killing he will suffer. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. Whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man, he's referring to himself again here, will be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. So you have to make a choice. Either follow him or not. Either be willing to lose your life for his sake or not. Or save your life and lose your soul in the end. You can prosper in this life. You can choose the things of this life and pursue those, and then lose everything in the next. Or you can choose the things of the Son of Man and follow his way, and be escorted into glory with him in his Father's kingdom. And he said to them, "I tell you the truth, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God come with power." Okay, we're going to leave that as we are right now. And let's go back to this Son of Man idea. Jesus here is identifying himself as the Son of Man. And we need to kind of specify exactly what that means. When he uses it, like what he means in the way he uses it, and how it's being heard by the people. Now, the most common instance of the term Son of Man in the Old Testament is in Ezekiel, where Ezekiel himself is called this frequently by God. I'm just going to give some random verses here. It's easy to find. It's at the beginning in most of the sections of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 2, God is saying to him, Ezekiel 2 verse 1, he said to me, "Son of man, stand up on your feet and I will speak to you." Chapter 3 verse 1, "Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll and then go and speak to the house of Israel." Chapter 3 verse 16, "Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel." So hear the word I speak and give them this warning from me. Chapter 4 verse 1, "Son of man, take a clay tablet, put it in front of you, and draw the city of Jerusalem on it." Chapter 5 verse 1, "Son of man, take a sharp sword and use it as a barber's razor to shave your head and your beard." Chapter 6 verse 1, "Son of man, set your face against the mountains of Israel and prophesy against them." Chapter 7 verse 1, "Son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says." Chapter 8 verse 5, "Son of man, look toward the north." Just over and over again. There'd be lots more we could go through, but that's just an example. So Ezekiel has this term in it a lot. And it's referring to Ezekiel. God is using that term to address Ezekiel. Son of man this, son of man that. Son of man do this, son of man do that. It basically just means human. You could, as I said, when you read the book of Ezekiel, every time you see that phrase, you could just kind of say, God is saying, human do this, human do that. Ezekiel's contemporary, Daniel, has a very special Son of Man, a very special use of it. We read about this again in the book of Daniel, but we're going to cover it here now briefly. Daniel chapter 7 is where this occurs. And this is where Daniel has his own dream. Daniel 1 through 6 are all about events that occurred in his time, where he was dealing with the rulers of the nations, King Nebuchadnezzar, and then the king of Persia who replaced him, the king who ruled in Babylon in place of Nebuchadnezzar, and he interprets these visions and dreams for these other rulers. And he starts having his own. In chapter 7 and going through the rest of the book of Daniel, he starts recording his own interpretation of the dreams that he had over his lifetime. And he has in Daniel 7 a dream that is basically the same thing as the dream Nebuchadnezzar had in chapter 2 that Daniel, as a young man, interpreted for him. And Daniel gets a version of basically the same thing, but instead of seeing a glorious, beautiful statue arrayed with all kinds of wonderful metals and materials, Daniel sees a series of vicious, savage, hungry, angry beasts. And we read that those represent the nations, the enemy nations that are going to come and rule. And they go all the way down to this last one. But while this last one reigns and rules and stomps around, this is the same kingdom in verse 2 that exists when the rock, not cut out by human hands, smashes the statue and grows to fill the whole earth. That's the vision Nebuchadnezzar had. And that rock which grows to fill the whole earth after smashing the statue and destroying it and wiping out the other nations it represents, that rock is the kingdom of God. And that happens in the time of the fourth kingdom, which is Rome, which is right now. Okay, so Daniel gave the Israelites, the Jews, the timeline for when this kingdom is going to come and the kingdom is going to establish. They know it's going to be in the days of this fourth empire, which is happening right now in their day. They know it's going to be soon. That's why they're all in a revolutionary mindset. They're all looking for a Messiah because they know it's going to happen. God told them it was going to happen at this time. They've had this in their knowledge base for hundreds of years. So while he was thinking, and then in Daniel 7, in the days of this last emperor, this last beast, this last empire, I should say, this last beast, Daniel 7, starting in verse 9, as part of his vision, as I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. I got a little confused there. That's fine. We'll start from here. Thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. That's God. His clothing was as white as snow, the hair of his head white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and his wheels were all ablaze. This is probably the same vision that Ezekiel got when he saw the throne. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. This is the leader of this last empire. We'll talk about that horn later. But this is the days of that fourth beast, that fourth empire. I kept looking until the beast was slain. That's Rome. That refers to the Roman Empire. And its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. In my vision at night I looked. This is verse 13. And there before me was one like a son of man. So one like a human, one like a person, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led to his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All peoples, nations, and men of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. And that refers again to the rock that was not cut out by human hands, that destroys the statue of Daniel 2 and grows to fill the whole earth. That represents the kingdom. This is the king. This is one like a son of man, coming to the Ancient of Days, coming on the clouds to the Ancient of Days and being led to his presence. That refers to Jesus. When Jesus refers to himself as the Son of Man, that is the text he is drawing to mind. So every time you hear that phrase, which is mostly on the lips of Jesus himself, because he is the primary person who calls himself that. Even the rest of the New Testament won't call him the Son of Man. The Christian church, the Christian movement afterwards, generally speaking, did not call him the Son of Man. They called him the Son of God or Christ. But that was a term that he used for himself, and he used it to himself a lot. And whenever he uses that, he is identifying himself as a human. Like the term Son of Man itself refers to a human. So he's clearly referring to himself. He's identifying himself with the human race by saying that. But he is specifically calling to mind that text of Daniel 7, that vision of the Son of Man coming with the clouds and being escorted in the present ancient days and being given all this glory and power. That's what he's referring to himself as. So when he says, for example, they see the kingdom of God, here in chapter 9, verse 1, they see the kingdom of God come with power. Like, that's what he's referring to. He is not referring to the end of time. Now, we want to hear that, we think about that, but he's referring to when the Son of Man comes into his kingdom and is given power and glory and dominion over the earth. That actually happens at his ascension. And so the people he's talking to, which is the crowd, some of them are the apostles, but there's also a crowd we read about in chapter 8, verse 34. There's a crowd around them. They're going to be alive when that happens. This is not referring to something that's going to happen 2,000 or more years later. This is referring to something that's going to happen within their own lifetimes. And some of them will be part of that kingdom. The apostles will be part of that kingdom. This isn't even referring to the transfiguration. Now, a lot of people can link that verse with the transfiguration because that's the very next thing that happens. And all three of the synoptic gospels put the transfiguration right after that. But it's not even really referring, that might be a preview, so to speak, but it's not even really referring to that. It's referring to when he comes into his kingdom with the arrival, with his return back to heaven and then the arrival of the Spirit on earth to establish the kingdom on earth. And that's actually what it's referring to. That's the moment when Jesus received the glory from his Father and dominion over all the earth. And that will happen in their lifetime. And it is not referring to the second coming. There are passages in the New Testament that do refer to that, but this is not one of them. Okay, this promise here before the transfiguration about seeing the Son of Man coming with power, or the kingdom of God coming with power, is not a reference to the second coming. And that is a historical event that was fulfilled and finished in that day and time.